Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, today we're taking a look at a listener request, Bluetooth technology.
I have to say, listener requests are probably some of my favorite because it avoids you and I arguing like the week before of what topics to do. So it's good for our relationship.
It's good for our relationship, and it also makes me feel like they get to relate to the superstars that are us. Like, this makes them feel like they're part of the podcast.
Team, when they clearly are not.
Clearly not.
That was harsh.
All right, so I wanted to start off by talking about why it is called Bluetooth. Do you know why it's called Bluetooth?
I do, but I'm going to let you take it. It's a fun story. I was planning on going in depth on it.
Were you?
No.
Okay, this was kind of crazy to me. Harald Bluetooth was king of Denmark in the late 900s. So I guess maybe they had Bluetooth technology back then. Anyways, he managed to unite Denmark and part of Norway into a single kingdom that introduced Christianity into Denmark. He left a huge monument, the Jelling runestone.
Nailed it.
Jelling. Anyways, in memory of his parents. Nice guy. Mom, if you're listening, I will do that for you after you pass.
Do you want to know where the actual Bluetooth came from?
Yeah.
The cat had a dead tooth that appeared to be gray or blue in color.
So gross.
How terrible is that?
Yeah, that's really very crazy. So, you know what else is crazy about this story?
Shoot.
He was killed in 986 during a battle with his son.
Oh,
his son's name was Sven Forkbeard. You can't make that stuff up.
Wow.
So choosing the name for the standard indicates just how important companies from the Nordic region, like Denmark and Sweden and Norway and those countries, are for the communication industry. And it says a little bit about the tech.
And speaking of choosing that name, so the person that actually chose that name was a guy by the name of Jim Kardash. He was an Intel engineer that was working on wireless technology at the time. And what was going on in the industry was Intel and Ericsson and a couple other companies, they were all making like competing wireless. And they were like, you know what, we got to get together, boys. We got to all be on the same page or else this is going to be a problem. So they did, and as a part of this, it was supposed to be a what's the word? Like a code name? It was a code.
Yeah,
gotcha. It was supposed to be a
like
code
a project name or something.
Yeah, he was reading like a documentary about this Harald Bluetooth Bluetooth guy, and he thought, oh, he united these kingdoms just like we're uniting these companies underneath wireless technology.
How about that?
So if he wouldn't have been reading that book, who knows?
Thanks, Jim Kardash.
And the logo. Fun fact that I'm pulling out a little early. I usually like to keep these in my...
I didn't know this. Go ahead.
I like to keep these in my back pocket, but the Bluetooth logo, it's actually an H and... What's his last name?
Okay.
That
guy.
Yeah, it's
Bluetooth.
H. Yeah, it's HB. So
his last name is Bluetooth.
But the symbol that you see there...
Is it really?
Is based off of the Norwegian or Swedish or
I can
or,
see
or,
the
or,
B.
or
I don't
Denmarkian,
see the H.
But it's not like an H in our language alphabet. It's an H in their alphabet.
That makes much more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that's what the symbol is.
Very interesting.
And they just never changed it from the code name Bluetooth.
Very interesting. I love that.
You didn't get that. You're the history guy.
I didn't get that part. I know. Okay, so what is Bluetooth? It is a radio wave technology that's designed to enable wireless communication over a short distance. Did I nail that or? Yeah?
Like you almost didn't cut and paste that from Wikipedia.
It was not Wikipedia, thank you. I believe it was probably How Stuff Works or something along those lines. Or maybe from a video. I watched videos this week, just like you.
So interesting thing about Bluetooth, and I didn't know this, there's actually a consortium that actually...
A consortium?
Yeah, so Bluetooth isn't like a company.
Is that a word?
I think consortium, So Bluetooth is actually there's an organization, kind of like Society of Automotive Engineers, that controls the standard that Bluetooth follows. So Bluetooth isn't necessarily like a company. It's a standard that has members that belong to it, and if you want to develop Bluetooth technology, you join this organization, and then you have the ability to use their technology in your stuff.
It's almost like our friends with the GPS and how that technology is out there for everyone to use.
Fun fact,
Oh, man, you're rolling on 'em.
1998. It was called the Bluetooth Special Interest Group, or SIG. It was 5 companies that banded together to start this group to ensure that wireless communication technology was developed on a single standard rather than multiple standards.
Huh. Well, that was probably pretty smart of them.
Yeah.
Huh. How about that? Do you have anything else you wanted to rattle through before we get into how it actually works?
No. I got some history, but we can do it after it works.
We can do history if you want.
We
I don't mind.
can. I got a little timeline for you.
Let's
Okay,
hear the
so I
timeline.
mentioned the timeline.
Yeah.
So this was back in 1998, like I mentioned, whenever the Bluetooth interest group started, and the name was officially adopted. So in 1999, Bluetooth 1.0 was released, or the specifications for it were released.
Oh.
Had all kinds of problems, bandwidth, distance it could communicate, security issues. I think you're going to talk about security issues a little bit later, but just wasn't a really great technology at the time. The first Bluetooth phone that actually had Bluetooth in it and the first PC card was in 2000. That's crazy that this was like 20 years ago.
It was 20
That's
years
how
ago.
old Bluetooth is.
What was that phone that was like the walkie-talkie? Is that
Motorola.
Nokia? Oh, Motorola did it? Okay.
Yeah. The first Bluetooth digital camera. This occurred, I'm sorry, let me back up 1 year. 2001, I got a whole bunch of these. The first Bluetooth printer and laptop was 2001.
Oh, that's convenient.
2002, digital cameras. This is how you connect your camera now to everything you connect to. 2003, the first Bluetooth MP3 player.
A Zune, I assume?
Probably a Zune, I'm not sure. The first, this is interesting, the first FDA Bluetooth medical device. So if you think of a hospital,
I don't know if I trust
and
that.
all of the medical devices that, take measurements and are used inside of operating rooms, this was the first time in 2003 that the FDA approved it. This one sounds terrible. I don't even know what it is. Bluetooth sunglasses?
What is that?
I don't even know what that is. I should have looked it up because it sounds really
That's really
stupid.
bizarre.
I'm assuming it's maybe sunglasses with like speakers in it to hear music or something. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know.
Bluetooth watch was 2006. Bluetooth picture frame. I had one of those.
Yeah?
You could actually upload or connect it to your phone, and it would go through your camera roll, and it would just put new pictures up every
that's neat.
Every couple
That
of
could be
seconds.
dangerous.
It could be, depending on what you were taking pictures of or doing the night before.
Yeah.
Also in 2006, Bluetooth reaches 1 billion devices with a B.
And that was 14 years ago?
It's ridiculous. So I'm going to jump because
there's probably a billion Bluetooth devices in the the garbage heap now.
I'm sure there is. So I'm going to jump a whole bunch of years because basically from 2006 to 2014, it was just growth. All of these companies and organizations started using the Bluetooth standard. So 2014, Bluetooth is in 2014, 90% of all mobile phones are using Bluetooth technology. And then just this past year, 2 years ago actually, 2018, Bluetooth celebrates 20 years of innovation, and its membership hits 35,000 companies that have been committed to using Bluetooth technology.
That is more than less than that number.
Bananas, as I like to say.
Awesome. Luke, thank you for that great rundown.
Whew.
All right, I wanted to talk about how it actually works. How about that?
Shoot.
Shoot?
Shoot.
Does that mean go?
With the T. Yes,
Nice.
it means go.
Okay. So when two Bluetooth-enabled devices get within range of each other, they do like a little check to see if one has data to share or if it needs to control the other device. An example would be like your phone needing to share data with your computer or your computer needing to control your mouse. So I'm old, so I still have like a little cord that connects my mouse. I don't trust it. I think it's from my demoing days. I don't want the battery to die. But, you know, those are just two different applications of the data sharing option as well as the controlling one device from the other. Once they get within range of one another, they connect and they form a network. Now, all Bluetooth devices actually have a receiver and a transmitter, The power of the transmitter determines the range that the device can operate. And so there's 3 classes that all of these devices are broken into. So class 1 has a maximum range of 100 meters. So those are like USB adapters and access points. Class 2, which class 2 is the most common class of Bluetooth device.
This is what's inside of smartphones, that sort of thing?
Yeah, mobile devices, smart card readers, all that.
Gotcha.
Yep. That has a 10-meter range. And then there's class 3, which has a 1-meter range, which is like a Bluetooth adapter. So maybe like a mouse or something.
So
might have that.
the range, keep in mind, that range, though, is line of sight range. So this is...
That's a dirty lie. No, infrared is line of sight.
No,
Bluetooth has the advantage not to be line of sight.
But Bluetooth does degrade. It doesn't need line of sight, but for maximum range, it works better if there's nothing in between it. You can use Bluetooth in a different room, but it's better if it's line of sight. You get maximum range with line of sight.
I see.
Yeah.
So a couple fun facts for you.
Shoot.
Some devices can actually increase or decrease the range at which they work. Fun fact number 2, Bluetooth can actually work up to 1 kilometer apart, which is 3,281 feet, but it's limited to help reduce interference. So it's like an active decision they make to limit that.
Gotcha.
So there's not interference. So before we move on to, like, let's say how the networks actually work, let's take a break for a word from our sponsor.
Let me guess, no sponsor because, as usual, you are the worst.
Actually, smart guy, this episode is sponsored by Xometry.
What?
I know, mine's blown.
If you're looking for on-demand manufacturing with massive network capacity for CNC machining, 3D printing, injection molding, or any kind of rapid manufacturing, make sure you check out Xometry.com.
And while you're there, check out the new complete guide to 3D printing, which can be found on the Resources tab of their homepage.
Better yet, make sure you use the discount code UNPRO25 to get $25 off your next purchase, James, through April 30th.
That is so much money.
It is.
And one more time, that's Xometry.com. Xometry.com. Okay, so looking at networks, there's 2 primary types of network topologies for Bluetooth, Piconet and Scatternet. Did you see those?
I love me some pico when you go to the restaurant and they bring you
Do
the
you?
bowl of it. And
It's too tomato-y for me.
so you like a salsa,
I like a salsa.
not
I
a
don't
pico.
like a
You don't like the chunks. You like it when
Correct.
it's blended.
That is correct.
Where do you think the name Piconet came from?
I assume it came from chunky tomatoes.
No, Piconet. I tricked you. Piconet is small. Pico, small, and net for network. So it's a small network.
Oh, thanks, Luke. So if we...
Sorry.
Oh, goodness. If we look at... You did trick me, too.
I did.
If we look at a Piconet, you can actually have a single Piconet or a multi-Piconet. I like that word,
I do.
Piconet. So a single is just one master and one slave device. Now, in a multiple Piconet, there's one master and up to 7 slave devices that function off of that master. And there is no slave-to-slave communication allowed in that situation. In both cases, the master device initiates the communication with those up to 7 slave devices, or even the 1, depending how many there are. Now, a scatternet is a combination, so this seems kind of like cheating. A scatternet is a combination of a number of piconets. So it's still kind of the same thing in my opinion. So one of the interesting things about this is that the master of one of the piconets, when they're part of a scatternet, could actually be a slave to another piconet. So it might actually be the master of, let's say, 5 devices on its little Piconet, but then it serves as a slave to one of the other masters in the scatternet. So that's kind of cool, right?
Very cool.
I thought so as well. So that's really all I had to say about the networks.
So speaking of networks, so the latest technology of Bluetooth, and when I say latest, I forget when 5.0 came out. I think it was a few years ago, maybe 2016,
Okay.
Bluetooth 5.0. So Bluetooth 5.0 can actually use what's called a mesh network. And that's where
Mesh?
they're mesh,
Okay.
like M-E-S.
like mesh shorts.
Yeah.
Okay, but different.
Why'd you pick shorts? But basically, so this is like a really great IoT application. So if you imagine if you have like a factory, let's say, and you have all these pieces of equipment that are all connected, and you need to know what's happening between each piece of equipment to drive different kind of processes, or make sure you know where maybe a piece of equipment is in the facility, or a component passing through the facility. A mesh network allows all of those devices to all communicate at one time and appropriately get the data to the one particular Bluetooth device needed. So it gives you this really big bandwidth to move data around and to communicate across multiple devices. So really good for like Internet of Things, kind of, where you're gathering tons of data from lots of different sources.
If you haven't checked out our episode on IoT, why don't you go do that right now?
I would,
after listening to the rest of this.
For sure.
For sure. Frequency band used for communication. Can I talk about that a little bit?
2.4.
Wow. Gigawatts?
GHZ. I'm assuming that's gigahertzings?
Gigahertzings? Bluetooth devices exchange data on the ISM band around 2.4 gigahertzings, more accurately ranging from 2,402 megahertz to 2,483.5 megahertz. And this consists of 79 channels, 1 megahertz bandwidth per channel. And that becomes important here a little bit later on my explanation. But a fun fact is ISM that I mentioned stands for industrial, scientific, and medical. And the frequency band itself is one of a handful of frequencies that have been set aside by like some sort of international agreement that was set up to be used for these types of devices. So if your device falls in that category, you would use that range.
So like the FBI and the CIA, they use a different one whenever they're listening into
unprofessional
engineering to see what we're doing.
Yeah, that's for sure what they do. Bluetooth uses a technology or a technique called frequency hopping. Mm-hmm. This is kind of interesting, I thought. At first, I thought it sounded like a waste, but there's a good explanation. So the transmitter jumps from one frequency to another in almost like a random fashion, and it does this at a rate of 1,600 hops per second. So how does that actually work? If you think about if you're sharing a file from maybe your phone to your computer, something like that, maybe you're transferring a picture or something, the phone will start transmitting to the computer and sending information to it. The info is served up in what we call a packet. We've probably heard that term before.
I'm sure.
And one packet will be sent per hop. So each second, 1,600 packets are sent scattered across those various channels. So those 79 channels that we talked about, it's hopping back and forth between those 1,600 times per second, splitting up the data that's being sent. And so obviously you ask yourself, why do you split this up instead of just using one channel? Because that seems like it would be a lot easier. And so there's a few reasons.
I know why.
Why, Luke? Go ahead.
Security.
That's exactly it.
See how I served that up for you?
That was really good. So it's really difficult for a hacker, at least one that isn't like a professional, to figure out the 1,600 hops per second. So this virtually eliminates like Bluetooth eavesdropping. So that's helpful. And another reason is it helps to minimize interference from other networks that use the ISM band, since Bluetooth isn't the only thing that uses it. So things like Wi-Fi or wireless phones use the same kind of band.
This is also why you can have like multiple Bluetooth devices all hooked up at one time and have no issues. Like your PC can have a Bluetooth to maybe a monitor, maybe a Bluetooth to a mouse, a Bluetooth to a keyboard, and you would think, oh, how come those signals don't get confused? And that's because of this.
That is because of this.
It is.
That's right. Do you want to talk about Wi-Fi and Bluetooth?
We can a little bit if you like.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so on the surface, these seem to do the same thing.
They seem exactly the same to me, Luke.
Well, there's differences. So first of all, Wi-Fi was intended to replace cables. Like big, heavy cables. If you think of like, the office that you're sitting in, there's cables running and, all those cable trays, and behind the doors running to the server and the network. And the idea was for stationary devices that had cables plugged into them. That's really what Wi-Fi is intended for. It's tons of bandwidth. It can travel greater distances. So you imagine if you're in the office and you don't have to worry about, plugging your computer in. You can just walk around the office. Like the other day, I did a Zoom call, and I literally was walking around the office with a computer, doing the Zoom call, and that's because of Wi-Fi.
That was rude. Everybody could hear your conversation.
Yeah, it was a little rude of me, but I needed some privacy. As you like to say, Bluetooth, on the other hand, was intended for portable equipment. So this was for laptops, for cell phones, for cameras, those sorts of things. And it was always something that was going to be on the move. That's why there was never this really big push for making the distance that Bluetooth could communicate, like super far distance, because you really didn't need it. It was always the phone's in my pocket, the watch is on my hand, or my headphones.
Right.
And the benefit of like the short distances is the technology itself is really low power. So if you think
that's
about
a huge advantage.
Yeah, so like Wi-Fi, like my router in my office, this thing gets so screaming hot, it's got to be plugged into the wall. It's, probably pulling, 1.21 gigawatts or gigahertzings through. But your phone, if you think about it, that thing's running Bluetooth all day long, and unless you have an old iPhone and they start killing your battery on purpose through software, your phone lasts all day with a Bluetooth connection with no problems. And so low power is a really big part of Bluetooth technology.
Yeah, it has a few other benefits as well. It's a really low entry point, low cost entry point for devices, so that helps for manufacturers. It can also connect to the internet, which is helpful. It allows easy file sharing, and it replaces the need for cables. I just told you that I still use the cable on my mouse, but pretty convenient to not have to do that when you're in a confined space or anything else that's working with it. You don't need to use, like, file sharing from your phone. I still use a cable when I'm uploading, like, 2,000 pictures to my computer. Uploading? Transferring. But if I'm just sharing one or two, I don't bother doing that. I just use the Bluetooth to take advantage of that capability.
Okay.
Is that what you do too?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I just keep
You're pretty old, that's why
I just keep them on my phone forever is kind of what I do. So
that's a good move too.
I got pictures from like 7 years ago.
It's awkward. They're probably of me.
No, they are not for sure.
They're not of me? Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay, with that in mind, let's take a break for this week's Luke's Rant.
So I'm leaving this rant 100% related to Bluetooth technology, and I talk about my Tacoma quite a bit.
Ooh.
I talk about it quite a bit, but
remind me of that after the end of your rant.
If I had one thing to complain about this vehicle, and I don't complain much about it, you know me and my Tacoma, I love it. The Bluetooth in my truck is so bad. It's just like
it's pretty good.
Oh my goodness gracious. I get in, it says device connected, and then it says device disconnected. I'll be in the middle of a call talking and I can hear them and they can hear me, and then all of a sudden it goes to my smartphone and like I can't hear them anymore, and now it's on the speed. And the problem is, the way the way all car makers, I'm not just making fun of Toyota, I'm making fun of the 2013 Toyota Tacoma that I might be selling someday. But the problem is, you can't upgrade it.
Yeah.
It's just like anything. You just got to deal with what you got. And it's just such a pain in the butt. And my wife has a relatively new car, Sweet VW. It has CarPlay. Have you ever been in a vehicle with CarPlay?
No.
So much better than Bluetooth. You just plug it in. All the apps that can show up on the little dashboard. It's amazing. Like, I will never not have a vehicle with CarPlay other than my truck that I'll have forever.
Yeah, so, other than your truck you'll have
forever. So Toyota, figure it out. Maybe give me a new truck with CarPlay. Maybe sponsor us, perhaps.
With
Who knows?
Yeah. So I did want to put this out there. One of our writers, remember the one who wrote in about potato farming?
Yeah.
Yeah. He basically said something to the effect of he respects that we both have trucks, though in Idaho you can barely claim a Tacoma as a truck.
Oh, what a hater.
It really made me pretty happy to read that.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Let's talk about some additional security stuffs.
Gotcha.
How about that? So Bluetooth offers a bunch of security modes. The device manufacturer determines which mode to include with the Bluetooth-enabled gadget. So a mouse might not need to have the same level of security as I don't know, a phone or some other device, right? In almost every case, Bluetooth users can actually establish a, quote, trusted devices option, and that can exchange data without permission, which doesn't sound secure to me at all, but that's fine. Maybe it's convenient for you. When any other device tries to establish a connection to your gadget, the user has to decide, actively decide whether or not to allow that to connect. So service level security and device level security work together to keep your data safe. So that's what we have to help out with those things. Did you have some security stuff you wanted to talk about, or not so much?
No, not so much.
Okay, so there's a bunch of different authorization things going on that keep things secure, but I wanted to talk about a few of them in particular, and it's mostly just because I think the names are funny.
They are funny. I didn't find these, but as I'm looking at your screen, they sound really funny.
Yeah, so one of the issues with Bluetooth is called bluejacking.
Bluejacking?
Yeah, it involves Bluetooth users sending messages to other Bluetooth users within range. So although sensitive information may not be revealed, unwanted messages may show up on your device.
I did see this. I didn't realize that's what it was called. So apparently,
Bluejacking.
Yeah, apparently, if you're in a crowd and you're walking through, someone could be transmitting. The example they gave was
careful. This is a family show.
No, like business cards, or if there's an event, like imagine you're in downtown Pittsburgh, and you're trying to get people to come to a really sweet concert. You just go down to the south side and you walk around and you put out an invite.
Vegas should do this. The card clickers, they should take advantage of this.
So, but apparently all you have to do is just shut your Bluetooth off, not accept it. But basically, it's like an ad that pops up on your phone. This has personally never happened to me that I know of. So maybe it's a new thing, or maybe it's an old thing that I just have never seen.
Maybe it's when things were less secure.
Yeah,
that's interesting though. Oh, imagine getting a business card that way. What's that going to ever accomplish?
Yeah.
So another one, my favorite one, is blue snurfing.
I thought that said blue smurfing when I looked at your screen.
All Smurfs are blue, aren't they?
But that would make sense. Why is it blue? It should be blue.
Remember
smurfing.
Snarf?
I do.
Yeah, I like Snarf. Thundercats?
Thundercats.
Yeah. So blue snarfing is similar to blue jacking, but the message sent out includes code that forces the receiving phone to reply, sending back contact information. So it sounds like blue jacking on steroids.
Wow, that's shady.
Snarf. Blue bugging allows hackers to remotely access a user's phone and use its features, including placing calls, sending text messages, and all sorts of other awful things that the user doesn't realize is happening. So blue bugging, even worse. And then one more that I have listed here is car whisperer. That's odd. Car whisperer takes advantage of car owners' failure to change the manufacturer's PIN on their cars. Luke, have you done this?
I don't know.
I don't think I did.
I don't know if I have.
Oh, no, I did, because I was sitting at the dealership, and they had me call and do it right when I was there.
I don't think I did that.
So Bluetooth-enabled entertainment systems get hacked in this way because you didn't change the PIN number. This allows hackers to send audio to the send audio and receive audio from the device.
Yeah,
so
but you have to be
creepy.
within range because it's Bluetooth. You have to follow them around to do something.
That's creepy.
That's very creepy.
Imagine if I was just driving behind you and then you just heard my voice.
Oh,
hey, Luke. Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. Ouch. Well, that was hurtful. All right, what else did you want to talk about?
I got a couple additional fun facts.
Ooh, that's what I wanted. Okay, go for it.
So they're headquartered in Kirkland, Washington, USA. The SGI.
I was going to say, it's not a company, though.
Or SIG, or whatever it is.
SIG, right.
Yeah. They're located in Kirkland, Washington, PA. I mentioned this before. They have over 34,000 companies. This is
35, you said.
Yeah. So this is probably an older piece of data. So 35,000 companies. But this was mind-boggling to me. So this was annual mind-boggling. And they do annual shipments now. So this is probably 2018 is my guess. Annual shipments, over 3.5 billion products per year have some type of Bluetooth technology included in them. I feel like this is like a Skynet kind of thing where they're just everywhere, and then all of a sudden someone's going to be like, you know what, I'm going to shut this off.
We've talked about AI coming to life with some of the people we've interviewed, and it sounds like everything's going to unite against us.
So think about how stuff changes. So back in 2008, only 5% of mobile devices were Bluetooth enabled. And like I mentioned, in 2018, like 90% of phones.
Nuts.
And then finally, the latest Bluetooth, Bluetooth 5, this boasts quadruple the range, double the speed, and boosts the broadcasting capacity by 800%. And then they also, Bluetooth 5, and I mentioned this before, does the mesh networking, giving you kind of capability to really connect a whole bunch of these in series. So
Interesting. Very cool. So before we wrap up here, I wanted to take a little time to give some shout outs. I don't want our listeners to feel left out. So the first one I'm going to do, and I'm going to try to do it right this time, it's Kira. Remember from Hawaii?
I do remember Kira.
So came up with this topic basically because she asked, what's the deal with the microwave interfering with her Bluetooth? So thanks for that. And just as an FYI, a microwave oven can cause electromagnetic interference because of the way it's running with a Bluetooth Piconet. So it's because of the electromagnetic field that the microwave is producing that it's interfering with the frequency that your Bluetooth is working on.
You know what you should do? Put your phone in the microwave so it's on the same wavelength and run the microwave. No, don't do that.
Have you ever put a CD in a microwave and watched it go?
I heard it does.
Yeah, it goes like this.
Don't do that, kids.
Don't do that, kids, or eat Tide Pods. Another shout out, CJK. We gave CJ a shout out before, but this was some info that I liked. Wrote in before, but this one was helping us sound less stupid with regards to the tuition of Berkeley versus Stanford. And we always mention these two in all of our what is fill-in-the-blank engineering episodes.
We do, because they're
check
good
them
schools.
all out. Yep. They turn out they're good schools.
Yeah.
Berkeley is part of the 3 California state college system. So there's 3 Berkeleys sitting around down there. So they have in-state and out-of-state tuition. Because they're state schools. Stanford, on the other hand, is a private school, so like many of the other private schools out there, it only has 1 tuition, which is very expensive. So there's that. So thanks, CJ, for all of that information. That's everything I had, though, for Bluetooth shout-outs and everything else. Anything from you, Luke?
No, I would just make sure that if you would like a shout-out, make sure that you write in to unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you listen. Make sure you share. Give us all kinds of great reviews. And if you can prove that you've done one of those things, we'll send you some stickers.
Good save, Luke. I almost forgot. That's right. Subscribe. Leave us a review. Email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. And until next time.
See ya.